The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. That's a quote by William Gibson, and you'll know the significance as I proceed through my talk. Let me move that out. Thanks, Gary, for the introduction. And you guys can just slowly settle down while I proceed. So today I'm going to talk about how engineers and our technologists should adapt to the changing AI landscape. Before that, how many of you would consider yourself engineers in some form? Maybe they're like DevOps engineers, front-end engineers, back-end engineers. At least half of the audience or more. That's very good. That's very good. Raffle time. No, that's not my slide. That's actually my slide. So I started with the wrong slide. Very good. Okay, as introduced, I am Gishan. I am currently a technical lead at Safewell. I have been a Google developer expert for Google Cloud Platform since the end of 2019. I'm also a Docker captain. Recently became a AWS community builder. I'm still trying to figure out what that is. I've been blogging since 2007. You can do your math. Or probably it's coming to around 20 years now. And then I've been writing code professionally since 2008. But a disclaimer, I'm not an AI engineer. You can connect with me if you scan that LinkedIn profile. I think that's going to come later as well. The point here I think you need to think is I've been writing code by hand for a lot of years, starting in 2008 professionally. So let's keep that somewhere in the mind. I'm probably going to come back to it a bit later. I work for Safewell. We essentially help people write wills online. Wills as in once you pass away, what's going to happen to your assets, what's going to happen to your super, blah, blah, blah. All of this, you could come in. It essentially takes 15 to 20 minutes and you can have your legally compliant will. You can write it online. If you want to learn more, ask me. 1, 2, we're looking for senior software engineers. The vacancies should be there on the website still, as far as I remember. The good thing is, even if you are a student and you have around 2 years of work visa, visa which gives you full-time work rights, you would be considered. So yeah, give it a go. Search for Safewell jobs. You should find the senior software engineer vacancy. I'm originally from Kathmandu, Nepal, the country that's pumping probably around $2 billion of AUD to the Australian economy with all the students flowing in. Let's get into what I'm going to talk about today. First, I'm going to start with how AI is changing how we as software engineers do our work, which is partly writing code. That's not what we all do, but we surely have some parts of our work which is writing code. Then this is probably something everyone understands, but sometimes overlooks, is the only thing constant in tech and life is change. Similarly, what has happened, especially since towards the end of 2025, I think the switch happened December, January-ish, is code is becoming a bit cheaper, but the overall software is not. Reliability is not. I'm going to touch a bit upon that. The other part that I'm going to go a bit into is how to become more of a product-minded engineer and a solution provider, not essentially, sorry to use the word, code monkey. Towards the end, there's a conclusion, and then yes, you'll have time to ask questions. As I happen to be the only speaker, depending on the time, I might just go in and write a skill that can be used by Gemini as well as anti-gravity. Because initially there were 2 speakers planned. One of them didn't feel well, one of them couldn't make it. So I actually happened to jump in to cover it up. So if I happen to have time or depending on the questions we get, I might do that part, which I was doing essentially yesterday. So let's get into it. Probably you have heard this multiple times, but yes, AI is changing how we as software engineers working. Code has always been a small part of software engineering. And always the hard question has been what to build in software engineering. That is why probably many of you know that There are 5 experiments running, 3 A/B tests running, and then we are collecting all the data and then trying to synthesize this, analyze it, and then think, okay, do we go A or do we go B? 50, 70, 25. Then at the end, B wins, and then B gets to like 100%. Does anyone have experience actually running experiments A/B tests on production? Yeah. No, at least like a couple of hands. So yeah, like with feature flags and experiments, this is how software engineering is happening. Big companies could have hundreds of experiments running at any given time. Just keep a tab on it because, like as I said, code is one part of it. The hard question has always been what to build next, or what to still keep, right? Similarly, if you're writing all of your code by your hand in 2026, there are better ways to do it. Let's put it that way. With all the coding agents and all the things that are happening, I've not done it, like people using multiple coding agents to do stuff in parallel using things like Git work tree. So things have changed. How much do you want to adopt and adapt to it? I think it's up to you, but yes, things are changing. So the point being, if you're still writing like every word or every character by your hand, probably there are better ways to do it. Similarly, I think in 2026, what's happening for software engineers at any level, what's happening is you are kind of moving one level up from a line cook. You are more, which probably could be called like a ticket puncher for a software engineer, to more like a head chef where you are orchestrating your agents to do your stuff done. Of course, there is human in the loop. You need to verify, you need to review, but it's slowly going towards that path. And what I want to say here is like use Gen AI and AI agents to your advantage, but with guardrails. Things can go haywire pretty soon if you don't know what you're doing, or even if you know what you're doing, things can really go out of hand very soon. But having said that, like software architecture and scalability are still the skills that you need to hone into. This is a quote from Ryan Dahl, the creator of Node.js and Dino. He essentially said that the era of humans writing code is over. That was a tweet, I think, from December or something. So, like, if it was just another AI company or chip company CEO saying this, I would not have believed it, because probably they are just trying to sell me something. But Ryan Dahl has been like coding for a lot of years. He doesn't have anything to sell at this point, as far as I know. So I would want to believe in something that he has said. Similarly, Andrew Karpathy, currently the director of AI at Tesla, probably one of the founding people at OpenAI, said in 2023 that English happens to be the hottest new programming language. That's 2023, right? So if you connect the dots, things have been changing. In 2023, 2026, it's already 3 years, and 3 years is a very long amount of time, especially in tech. So as I said earlier, like the only thing constant in tech and in life is change. Never stop learning. Like follow the right people. As I said, probably Andrew Karpathy, or someone who has done it. I think Simon Williams, like the guy who created Django. He also has a very good blog, and he does stuff with, like, he writes very insightful things with AI. Essentially what it does is, like, as soon as a new model comes, he asks it to do a cycling pelican, and then you can see how things have evolved in the past 2 or 3 years. Like 2 years, it could not write a cycling pelican SVG, but nowadays it writes pretty good cycling pelican. So the point here being, like, follow the right people. One thing I listen to is Practical AI podcast. That's very, very good. Why I am saying to not really follow the buzz and go to something like a podcast is when there is a buzz, there is a lot of dust in the air, and things like a podcast, they review it when the dust settles. So you can get things that are a bit more synthesized, a bit more analyzed. Whereas if you follow the trend, like there was JavaScript fatigue, probably it's 10 times now with the AI fatigue. There's something coming every day, every hour. You can't really follow up with everything that's happening. But having said that, keep some time to experiment with new AI tools, especially free ones. It could be like 1 hour every week or something, but keep that. If you don't do that, it will not be a long time when you might be considered like a dinosaur. The thing is changing very fast. So at least keep a tab of it. The other thing is like embrace growth mindset because, yeah, learn and grow from failures. Try to fail fast. As they say, growth is a bit away from your comfort zone. So your comfort zone is here and the growth is here. So embrace the growth mindset. Don't get into a fixed mindset. Yeah, but as I said, like whatever you hear, don't just believe on it. Take things with a grain of salt. If there is someone trying to sell something, they will say software engineers are not needed in 6 months. A, B, C, D, right? Just think of who is saying that and go 2 layers deep and think, why are they saying that? They're probably trying to say that because they want to sell their chips or they want to sell their X or they want to sell their software, right? So whatever you listen to, take it with a grain of salt and then analyze if, yeah, does it, like, what's their vested interest in it? Like whatever is said, because generally what I've seen is the hype is here and the reality is somewhere here. It doesn't map or match easily. But for that, you will need to come down and test that particular tool or that particular feature and then figure it out. Like, does it work like that or not? There has been discussions like it doesn't do the thing because you don't have the skill. I buy it to a point, but I don't also not buy it to a point. Sometimes it's a hype, right? So yeah, that's where until you don't experiment, you don't really know. Code is becoming cheap. Software is not. Yeah, when you don't write each line of code, judgment becomes critical. Very, very important. Number one. I think the original quote by Linus Torvalds probably 10, 15 years back was, yeah, talk is cheap, show me the code. Now it has basically reversed. Code has become cheap and show me the talk being the prompt or what your AI agent does. Having said that, because you're not writing like every line of code yourself, seeing what the output has come out, what has been generated by anything or anyone, you need to be very judgmental and try to figure out, like, does it do what it needs to do? Similarly, you cannot blame a knife for a cut. Thereby, you cannot hold an LLM or an AI responsible and accountable for your code for the thing that you shipped that went to production and that brought production down is on you. You can't say, yeah, it was generated by A, B, or C, right? So you can't really blame a knife because there is a cut. And yeah, with all of this, like if your answer is because ChatGPT said it, or like Gemini gave it to me, that's a wrong answer. LLMs and or AIs are not responsible or accountable. You are responsible. It's your code. It's you who is opening the PR. It's your colleague who's reviewing it. So yeah, if your answer is, yeah, I don't know, because X LLM said it, then that's already a wrong answer. The point here being, yeah, don't outsource your thinking. Don't make it your second brain. Like think through things, learn the architecture, learn the layers that are involved. But having said that, I think even for a new programming language, it's almost the days are numbered where you would just learn syntax, because most of it can be generated. It might not follow the best practices, but it can be generated. Yeah, it's just software engineering. I think I got this from one of the LinkedIn posts, the sources there. I'll probably share the slides later. So before AI assisted or AI accelerated, whatever you want to call it, software engineering, the time to build features was refinement, breakdown, what we want to build. Actually doing the development, writing code was big. And then the QA acceptance testing was another phase. So the development was what took basically the most of the time. Now with AI assisted and or AI accelerated development, what has happened is the refinement time is quite similar. The development time has shrunk, probably even half or more, because essentially with a ticket now, a software engineer can say, like, with this MCP, look at the Confluence, look at the ticket, look at the Figma design, and then generate me a code that goes 60, 70%, then I can like update it or do it, right? So with that, the bottleneck is becoming code review, because code is produced a lot. Maybe it's not doing what it needs to do, or maybe like it could have been done with 100 lines of code, but what is being produced is like 150 or 200 lines of code. That's happening as well. But then it puts the bottleneck on the review. Whoever is doing the code review has to review a lot of code. There are AI LMs that also do code review, but then, yeah, if you generate it with an AI and then review with an AI, you again fall to the same trap, right? So it's better to have someone like a human in the loop and try to review the code. And I think that's where the point is. Somewhere I feel most of us are turning into glorified QA engineers, because QA is becoming very, very important, because the code is not also fully written by you. You are reviewing it, and then that thing goes to staging and production. So your fail-safe mechanism becomes really testing it well. I don't know if it's automated end-to-end tests or someone actually sitting down and doing everything on the browser, but QAing stuff has become super duper important with all of these changes. So what this brings down to you is, from a software engineer or a programmer just being on the sides and coding, in this day and age, now you will need to become a product-aware AI-enabled engineer, because you will need to know how the business makes the money, what's the business acumen. You will need to do the higher value things of actually ownership, and then have strong basics and act responsibly. I'll give you an example. It's 4 p.m. What you have shipped, or 4 p.m. on a Friday, what you have shipped has broken on production. What would you do? Even though you are a junior or a principal engineer, in my head, the right thing to do is get the system back to a non-breaking state, right? That's essentially ownership in my head, right? So that's like bringing on higher value and ownership. It's not your level. It's what are you going to do in that situation? Bringing the system back to normal could just be turn off a feature flag. I'm not saying sit down and then do a full-on 200-liner pull request and then get it to production, right? But I think that's the mentality, that's the thinking that you need to do, and then tie it back to the business. If the business doesn't make money, it doesn't get to give you your salary, right? So knowing the business acumen is becoming even more important now. Exactly the same thing. Know your product, know what it does, know how the business makes money, like how it actually trickles down. Rather than features or lines of code or tickets on Jira, ask, why are we doing it? What's the value? If the aim is to go from, I don't know, like $10 million this year to $20 million, or $10 million last year to $20 million this year, the things that we are doing, how is it making that bridge, right? You probably need to ask those questions even more. And yes, the same thing, exactly. Ask why we are doing this, and check if it's the right outcome. Because many a times you can reach an outcome without the code. Like, code is a mechanism to reach, like, sell a value or come to a point to give more value. So at times it could even be reached without code. Good, that was fast. Top 3 takeaways and our conclusion. Number 1, use GenAI tools. Separate some time to experiment, as I said. I don't know if it's 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week. Make sure that you have that separated, and then you put some time to see, if not the latest and greatest, at least know what's coming out there. For instance, right now, the MCP versus skills is becoming a big discussion. I don't know where it's going to end, but at least you should know that these kinds of things are happening. Similarly, knowing the overall system, the system design, the layers, how it all joins together is becoming critical. Not just the code layer, but yeah, when I deploy, what's the infra it's running on? What's the security measures that we are taking? How is the user using it? What could go wrong? What could go wrong in 1,000 users on the website versus what could go wrong in 10,000 users on the website? And all of this is becoming even more critical, because these are the things that, at least as of now, AI is not able to do. I cannot say in like 2 or 3 years or 5 years, but at least as of now, these are the things that AI doesn't have all of that context. And adjust your mindset. be aware, be an AI aware product manager engineer, know how the business makes money, know like what to do, what value do, why are we doing this, what value does it add, as like generating as code is becoming more generatable. These kinds of things are what is going to separate you when like the times are thin, when the times are difficult. And that's it. I can take questions, and as we have some time, I can even go in and show you a quick build a skill if you guys want. But yeah, I can take questions. That's my LinkedIn profile again, but open to take questions. Yes, go ahead, please. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
How you use U.NV file or knowledge these agents file?
How do I use is the question? Okay, I have recently started doing it. I'll be honest. In skills, I was not really into it. I was using Cursor since 3-4 months now. I have some of the things defined in the agents, and I am now slowly getting into the groove of public skills and then getting them in as plugin and then using it. For instance, I recently tried a code review skill. Did a pretty good, decent job. But what I feel is the skills that I see in public are a bit too generic. They're not really tailored to how we work or how our organizations work. So what I would suggest is trying to find a balance, get the good parts from here, get your context, mix it up, and then probably come up with your own skill. It could be anything. As I said, a code review could be a skill. Creating tickets on Jira could be another skill. Depends on what you want to do. But exactly the same thing. Right now, I am also trying to balance out between, should I go a bit more on MCP, which uses a lot of tokens and then it's always loaded to the context, or should I try to find a balance between, here is a skill, for instance, writing Jira tickets. Here is your Atlassian CLI. You can use this, and then that can create tickets. So I'm also trying to figure out. But yeah, to your question, generally, I found public skills to be a bit too generic, and then I generally try to mix and match and try to like find a skill or make it a bit more gullible to how we are using things. So yeah, that has been my approach. Yes.
When it comes to system design,
yeah,
how much would you recommend leaning on large language models output and suggestions for that? Because I've seen there's been a lot of very expensive suggestions for architect the system. How much would you lean on? What would you want the audience to get?
Very, very good question. I would use an LLM like a sounding board for system design kind of things, as in like asking it questions or saying it. Yeah, let's say if I want to design X with 1,000 users on the app at a time, what suggestions would you give? System design is similar to coding, but probably a bit more different, is also very experience based. If you have done systems or design, for instance, I have not designed systems that have served millions of users. I have not designed a Facebook, right? But essentially, I have worked on a system that has handled thousands or even 10,000 users easily, right? For instance, when I used to work at the Iconic and when it was Black Friday, it was chaos. Things would have been scaled up like at least 2 or 3 days in advance. And after Black Friday is done, then we would scale stuff down. So system design is a mix of a lot of things. And I think it's also the experiences and the places that we have worked. As I said, I have not worked at a Facebook or a Google skill, so I don't know what I need to consider, right? That's where I would balance it out. Use the LLM as a sounding board and use your own experience and your learnings and your skills. I don't suppose you can blindly trust what an LLM gives for system design. Also, because as I said, like what works for 1,000 users at a time on one app is not going to work when it's 10,000, or it's surely not going to work when it's 100,000 users. So that is what, there is a very good article in High Scalability by, I don't remember by who, I think it's from 2013. And then that person basically says which AWS services to use for 1 to 10 users, 10 to 100 users, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, yeah, goes up to 10 million or something. I would probably use or feed that to an LLM to start with. Like if I was to make a skill, I would feed those kinds of things to an LLM, saying, hey, refer to this before you answer anything. But unlike code, I would not trust what an LLM gives for a system design because, as I said, it's very dynamic. It's a lot of moving parts. Yep.
Hi. Do you have any ideas on whether software engineering will change drastically with AI native development? The reason I'm asking is because it seems to me that we're asking agents to replicate human roles, be a tester, be an architect, be a developer. But when you think about it, those roles don't map naturally to what an agent does, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Scrum roles, they don't really map very well what an agent does.
Yeah.
But some people say, well, let's go back to waterfall, right? But I'm not convinced that waterfall artifacts are great for agents either.
Yeah.
What do you think?
How do I put it? I'm trying to process. Yeah, so there are technical things, and then there are political or organizational things. Let's put it that way, right? I'm not going to name companies, but yeah, you have read the news. I have read the news. Even in Australia, 500,000 people losing jobs in the past 3 months, right? Now, it has been somehow blamed on AI. Is it the only cause? I don't know, right? That's one part of the story. Now, the other thing is the size and how the organization works as well. For instance, if you are in an enterprise, you have 1 million lines of code. That is not even going to fit on any LLM that is available right now in that context. So for you to be using that to, for example, refactor a code, almost impossible, right? So yeah, but for the general types of startup-ish companies I know, it has already changed. It has already changed. That's the point. Like it has already changed. I think the chasm, like the changing point was November, December last year. It has already happened. I was probably a bit late to the train. I'll be honest as well, but it happened. And then now, as I see like some of the younger engineers working, like I get scared as well. Like to be, oh wow, this is already there, kind of a thing, right? So yeah, will LLMs actually be able to replace a role fully? I'm not convinced of that, because just yesterday or somewhere I was having a we were having a chat, and the person was saying, I put the skill, but the LLM never picked that up. It's usual hallucination because it's not deterministic, right? So you can't really control what it's gonna do when you ask it. So yeah, to your question, things have changed. Things are changing depending on the organization. Yeah, I think it is already a different landscape. But having said that, I think most of the interviews that you would do, they would somehow, somewhere ask you about AI. I think Canva or someone has a full-on blog post that says you can use whatever AI you want in our interviews, because when you come in, you are going to use it. So that is a change. That is a big change, I would say, right? Because let's say if it was a lead code challenge, and then you sat there and try to traverse the tree, whereas you just ask and it just traverses the tree. So that I think that is, I know I'm giving a kind of roundabout answer, but that is how I feel about it. Yep.
How do you integrate AI in a work in a way that, like, without constant prompting, in a way that AI works with you, not just for instant state?
With you, okay. Yeah, I would see it in two, three angles. For instance, number one, generating code, right? Generating code, you could do it bit more procedurally. By that, I mean, give a prompt, get an output, give a prompt, get an output, right? But if you want to make it a bit more consistent and across the team, you might want to look into something like spec-driven development. There, what you do is you kind of provide it a full-on spec. Then it's not actually procedural. It becomes a bit more declarative. So you actually give it a full prompt, and then it sees the whole prompt and then breaks it down or plans it and then converts it. For instance, I think Kiro by AWS is more based on spec. Right? There are some spec frameworks as well. OpenSpec is there. Something is there, right? So you have to look at what part or which aspect of software engineering are you talking about, right? So, and then the other thing is thinking of a bit more tool agnostic way of doing things, because a spec, ChatGPT would understand it. Cursor, any model on Cursor would understand it. I think Gemini would understand it. Whatever X model, Claude would understand it. So you have to like layer it up, and then because if you want consistency and 3 team members in your team, one uses Claude, one uses Cursor, one uses Codex, ChatGPT, whatever, and if you want that consistency, you have to create that base layer first, and then only the above layers only. That's one part. Now going into a bit further, for instance, if it's code review and you want consistency there, same thing. You could have a skill that Codex uses or everyone uses it, and then it is part of your CI/CD pipeline as well. So it depends upon, I guess, which layer you are talking about, and there are already frameworks that have proven to be scalable at Amazon scale. If it works at Amazon scale, surely it's going to work at a 20% tech 20% engineering team scale. I think that is how I would look at it. What has already worked, proven. I won't use the word battle tested. It's just been 3-4 years, but at least proven to work would work for you. So yeah, it could be something like skills being shared at an organizational level. So all of these things could happen, but you need to know which slice of software engineering I would talk about. As I said, if it's code generation, probably look at spec-driven development. If it's higher, I don't know, there might be something that's already there because, yeah, as I said, it's AI fatigue. Everything is changing almost every day. Yes.
Yeah, can you talk a little more about testing and bugs? What they should be?
Yeah, so I was involved in actually generating a LLM infused application. Let's put it that way. Yeah, we did use some testing and evals there, but I would have liked to use it a bit more. The problem that at least we faced there was if a new version comes of the model, or if we somehow need to change the prompt even a bit, you can't really expect consistent outputs. I'm talking about if I integrate an LLM with an app, right? With a prompt, probably it can be done a bit better now, but I'm talking when I did it, it was a year and a half ago. So with LLM and evals, it helps you. It's a good thing to use depending upon what you're trying to do. But I see the scope of using it a bit more. From the other side, what I see is because it's not deterministic, you might need to configure it like pretty strictly. For instance, zero temperature, and make sure that LLM gives you what you actually want. So that is how I look at LLM and evals from my experience. Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah, so carrying on forward from your non-deterministic point that you made.
Yep.
Software is supposed to be very deterministic, as in we expect it to give it a certain input and then output.
You mean code, not software, but yeah, go ahead.
Really, it's software.
Yeah.
But I guess at what point? So I have used it in my development.
Mhm.
What I have found more helpful is giving it a spec document, like you had said,
Mm-hmm.
giving it a framework to operate with it.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, it feels like I have to prompt more to get it to do what I have to do, and
Yep.
I could have done it better.
Yep,
than
yep,
having it
yep.
generated itself. So I guess how much emphasis would you put on a skill like prompt engineering?
Mm-hmm.
Or is the expectation that eventually this tech will get good enough that we just don't need to even worry about it, able to understand it, and what are your thoughts on that?
At least in 2026, February, March, I think like prompt engineering is, how would I put it, slowly losing its shine. With things like, probably in 24, it was prompts and prompt engineering. 25, it was, slowly coming into agents. And 26, it's multi-agents running everywhere with skills and MCP and everything, right? With that in context, but I don't know if you have tried like the latest models, but what is that called? Compliance to what is being said to do, or like complying. There's an exact word that's skipping my mind. Basically, the model doing what you are saying has become much better, at least in the past 2 or 3 months. Now, is it expensive? Yes. Are they the really powerful and the latest models? Yes. So that's the point, right? Yes, it has become better, but yes, it has also become expensive, or you need to use the the latest and the greatest. So yeah, to be honest, I think because of all the things of MCP skills and everything coming, I think like if you look at it, what is a skill? Skill is basically a conference document that you created 3 years back saying, how do you do this? To be honest, right? The only thing is people were reading it then, and now you are putting a bit more structure on it and then making an LM read it, and then somehow magically the LM partially understands it or fully understands. I don't know what happens inside, and then it is able to do it, right? So I think with that, I have a feeling like the prompt engineering part is not as important as what it was in 2024. That is how I would look at it at this point. Yeah. Fun. Go ahead.
So a lot of us that right?
Yep.
Say focus on one of
Yep.
how do we really define a basket of us on where do we set the boundaries?
Okay. So think of it this way. Things that don't change in decades are fundamentals. HTTP doesn't change. I don't know who made it, but HTTP 1, now HTTP 1.2, 2, 3. So basically the whole world still runs on HTTP. Your mobile app is still doing HTTP call and getting a response back. Right? HTTP doesn't change. Databases, 1960s or something. How many years? I don't know. 60, 70 years. I mean, relation databases, right? Probably even now, like a sane CEO will not use a non-relation database in a proper app, right? So think of it. Things that don't change in decades are fundamentals. You can go as much as deep as you like in them. Yeah, things that don't change in years, learn them, but don't dwell on them, right? For instance, 2013, 2012, 13. jQuery was the thing. Angular came in and said, it's going to be the jQuery killer. It's from Google. 3 years down the line, React came in and essentially kind of killed it. Right? So that's the thing. But JavaScript didn't change. JavaScript is still there. Like it renamed ES5, ES6, ES25, whatever. I don't know, whatever it's called these days. And then now the layer is on top. That is TypeScript. So that's the thing. If you are good at the things that don't change in decades, you are at a good place. If you market yourself as a React engineer, probably there is a problem. That is how I would think, and that is what I mean by fundamentals. Yeah, sorry, it's go ahead.
Talking with the AI.
Yeah.
Effectively,
What do you essentially mean by talking with AI agents?
with humans. I can use broken English that.
Yeah, okay. So
Comes to agent.
yeah, I think talking with AI agents is, in place of writing, you are using words, or it's some. Sorry.
It's much.
Yeah, but like if you think of it, like for it, the input mode has changed, right? You're not writing, but it is getting the input as sound, right? Yeah, I think I don't know if it's a skill, but it is a way of talking with AI. Number one. Number two, because you're talking, you can actually talk in any language that the LLM understands. For instance, I was hearing a podcast and the security researcher person was saying people use like very difficult or like hard to read languages to actually try to attack the LLM. So for instance, if you, I don't know, use it in a script that is not common, you can essentially try to break its system prompt. But then because it's not English, and then I don't know, 80% of the people who are trying to know what's coming in and going out don't understand what's happening. It's hard to relate to. But yeah, coming back to the point, yes, I'll come to you. Coming back to the point, yeah, I think talking to LLM is a skill good to have, but I don't see it as groundbreaking at this point. But yeah, I may be wrong because I don't talk much to an LLM. I'll be very honest. I don't talk. I am someone who types to an LLM.
I don't say it's a news.
Yeah.
It's it and keep it. Small T is not something like a from engineering like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Or context engineering.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't have too much experience with talking with an LLM. Probably, yeah, people who use an LLM while driving a car or something like that, where they can type is a thing. But to be honest, I am more of a type to an LLM, get the response back in text. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, good. Yeah. This is fun. Go ahead.
You mentioned that QA is gaining value.
Yep.
The tools for AI.
Yep.
But what if the AI can like come up with more test cases that a human can come up with?
At what cost? At what cost, right? Yeah, because the thing is, you can have 100% code coverage. For instance, if you're talking about unit tests, right? I'm just talking purely about unit tests. You can have 100% code coverage, right? But then you can have 10 tests testing the same line of code as well. Correct? So that's the point. Like, I don't suppose AI would be easily able to distinguish it, right? Number one. So that's the thing. It's being at that optimal Goldilocks zone, right? Even end-to-end tests, if you really want to generate, probably AI would cover every case under the sun. But do you want your end-to-end tests to be that many? Because that's costly, right? If you push a code and then it takes 30 minutes to goddamn just pass it end-to-end test, think about it, right? So there is always looking at the optimal place and the Goldilocks zone, because yes, AI can do it. Yes, probably you can use Playwright MCP to actually cover every goddamn use case or edge case that you can think of. What does it do? It probably has 20,000 lines of test code. Then what does it do? Anyone pushes and then opens a PR, waits 40 minutes. Do you want to do that? Right? That is how you should look at it. Like, there is an optimal way of doing things. Even with unit tests, you can potentially do 100% code coverage, but to cover that last 5%, are you gonna invest 5 hours more? Yeah, and does it still have the value that you want? So that is where it's a balance. It's a balance. Like, yes, AI can do a lot of stuff, but what is the cost you are gonna pay?
But it could change.
What like how? What do you mean?
Faster.
How do I put it? So at the end, it's going to be the big three. Now, who big three? I don't know, right? This is the war is going to settle. The war is somewhere going to settle. It's going to be big three, maximum big four. Yeah, all of them are selling you tokens. That's the currency, right? So even if you make it fast, even if you do anything, even if you create a bot or an LLM agent that is going to automatically fix your failing tests, for example, what's happening at the end? It's someone selling you more tokens. Are you ready to buy that? Are you ready to spend that money? Right? That is how I think you should think about that. That's why I'm talking about Goldilocks zone. It's not like, that's the whole point, right? You can do whatever you like in a software. Software is not physical, right? You can do whatever you like in software, but will you do whatever you like in the software? No. You will always have boundaries. You will always have requirements. You will always do something because it adds $1,000 more to the business. I think that is the way to think. Then yeah, it can do a lot of stuff, as I just said. But same thing with the tests. Yes, you can cover every known edge case with an end-to-end test. The question number one is end-to-end test the right thing to cover that? Probably it's the unit test because they are cheap, they are repeatable. End-to-end tests would have your database layer, your backend layer, HTTP layer, front-end layer. Just for a simple edge case, do you want to actually spend the 5 seconds of that to and fro? I think that is probably a major question to answer. Then, can I have 100% code coverage with the end-to-end test? My answer is yes, but do you want to do it? Do you want to pay that cost? Do you want to pay that cost on every push and every pull request open? Right? Yeah, go ahead.
In relation to business,
Sorry, go ahead.
in relation to business acumen,
Yeah.
Are you confident that you feel it's safe to put in commercially sensitive information or personal information into the prompt? And do you think it will produce a better outcome if you have that content?
Never. I would never put PII or anything that I know in any prompt, especially if it's going over the wire to somewhere, unless it's a hosted. I'm not using the word open source, but somehow open weight, whatever it's called. It's not open source. Somehow open weight within your own VPC. You control everything. You know if it's sending anything to anywhere. If it's that and it's like a small LLM probably trained for that particular job, and you are 100% sure that you have control over what it's doing, probably, right? As soon as it's a HTTPS, blah, 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 no. Because there can be like, yeah, I mean, in the middle, X, Y, Z, you don't know which server is going to, you don't know what they are doing with it. They say that they don't save it, but they say that, right? Yeah, like they say that, yeah, like the big companies don't read your email, but I don't think so. I say one thing on my phone at 5 p.m. and I start seeing ads of that same thing at 7 p.m. I don't know. How is that possible? They say they don't listen to you. Yeah, so that's the point. Like as soon as there is HTTPS and then things are going over the wire, over the internet, no PII, please. Yeah, that is what I would say. But as I said, like if it's something that you know, it's within your network, you know what's happening, you know, you have hosted it yourself. But then that's the point, like it calls it open weight or whatever, but then I don't know what it does inside. I hope that it doesn't send anything from the inside, but that you could control because it's within your VPC. So you can say nothing going outside. If it tries to contact anyone, just block it because you still have the control to the network. But yeah, if you send something through HTTPS to someone else and that reaches their server, only they know what they're doing with it. As simple as that. It's been fun. I can take questions because I'm the only speaker, so I have time. And it's 6:43, so I have time. Go ahead if you have questions. Was it the last one then? Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Coworkers who we have to work with.
Yeah.
And I guess like, what would you recommend be something like skills that we need to start to adapt to, constantly keep ourselves up to date with this question? Because it feels like every other week there's a new thing coming out. If you don't know that, get out.
How do you define the coworker that you are mentioning? Like what is this coworker?
The adage is that adding more people to software really slows it down.
Yep.
And I believe in it.
Yep.
But now that we have to essentially adapt to this new environment, what would be the, like essentially, like you mentioned, previously prompting was the thing that you had to know.
Yeah.
Now you have to see
Yeah.
text, indentate. And at what point do you feel like, or what skills do you think are necessary for us to kind of accumulate to essentially stay at
Exactly. As I said, I think there are two things. Number one, let the dust settle. Number two, separate time, I don't know, every week, every 2 weeks or something. And then learn the things where the dust has settled. You know, so I don't know if it's a podcast or something. Don't come to it or don't try to attack it when it's hot. Let it settle down. Some things will come, some things will just die. For instance, MCP, then A2A, blah, 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 some other protocols. I don't know if they are still being used. Right? So don't go to them when they're hot. Give it some time, give it some weeks, give it some months. Once it's settled and once you know that it's a bit more concrete, it's not going to break now, it is being actually adopted. As I said, like MCP November, A2A protocol or other things, January-ish, right? This thing is still there. I don't know how long it's going to stay, but it has actually at least sustained 1 year, 3 months as of now when I'm speaking. So it's good to have a look at MCP and stuff, right? But these other two protocols, I don't know where they are. Probably they are being used somewhere, but it's just 10% of the market. That is one thing. So as I said, two things. Let it settle, then try to learn it, and then try to know about it. And number two is do separate sometime. I don't know if it's every week, every month, and then that's how you can use it. Now, if you want to look a bit further, there is something called ThoughtWorks Radar. Yeah, they have four areas: adopt, something, try, blah, blah, blah. If you want to have a better further horizon of every year, they do it every year. I think the ThoughtWorks Radar was released for 2025. Have a look at that. They kind of analyze on what tools to. There are 4 sections I forgot, but at least one that is called adopt. Battery is running low. If this dies, then it's not me, it's the battery. But I'll just show you the ThoughtWorks Radar while I speak. It's done. So basically, if you Google for ThoughtWorks Radar, it will give you something. Yeah, but this is done.
You want to use a portable charger?
Oh, I don't know. This is a Windows machine, so I don't know. I can answer questions. I don't suppose I need a portable charger because I don't have anything.
You want to use a USB-C?
No, I don't know what this. This is Sazon's machine. This is not my machine, so I don't know what this one uses. But I can take questions even without this. Probably like a couple more, and then we can wrap up. Anyone has any questions? That sounds like a no. So, yep, probably we can use your machine for the rest of the evening. Sorry? I'll send you the link and then you can share it. But sorry.
Like for the
Nah, it's fine. I think we covered. We did enough. Thank you very much.
One more round of applause for Gashan, please. Honestly, I think that was better than all my AI training that I've done for all the companies that have introduced AI training and compliance courses. But thanks again so much, Gashan.